right. I hope we get all 14,000 of Crud Buddies subscribers to come check out our review.
Oh yeah, we'll have to leave a link for this in the
Hashtag Crud Buddies.
Crud Buddies. Wow.
I know who we're tweeting.
Hang on. All of the comments are about how great Steve James is.
Oh, okay, I'm in. You know what? My excitement went from a 0 to a 10. I'm ready. My body is ready for the Steve James of it all.
Let's do it.
Well, we are recording.
All right. Hello, everyone. Who knows how much of that will make it into the episode. Welcome back to Stevecast. I am Steve. Here with me, as usual, are Rachel.
Shit, I took a drink. Hello!
And Matt, who's also probably drinking.
You and I are crud buddies, right, Steve?
We're the cruddest of buddies.
Awesome.
I see matching tattoos in your future.
So,
tramp stamp that just says crud buddies in old English.
No. You know how I feel about tattoos, Steve. Don't you do that.
Already off the rails. This is an episode that I have been looking forward to for a long time. If you've listened to our American Ninja episodes of this, especially American Ninja 2 and 3, there is a man and actor that we fell in love with several years ago, Mr. Steve James, this incredibly charming and charismatic and just awesome man who is sadly taken way too early.
Fuck cancer.
Yeah, fuck cancer, you piece of shit.
Yes, fuck cancer.
I was expecting Rachel to get her anti-cancer comment in, but that's fine. Matt,
Rachel must be pro-cancer.
Yeah, Rachel's pro-cancer.
I mean, give cancer a chance.
A lot of people are, and they hate it.
Okay, this is a little dark even for us. I'm not drunk enough yet for this.
Anyway, so Steve James was almost typecast as the sidekick in a bunch of movies. So in American Ninja 1, 2, and 3, and probably several other of his films, he's always this super awesome guy who does all of the work and is clearly the best fighter in the movie, but he's always playing second fiddle to this lame loser douchebag guy. And so finding Steve James movies, or there weren't many Steve James movies where he was actually the lead, the star, but we got one tonight, and this is going to be, I think, the first time we've ever watched something where he is, as far as we know, objectively the star. So I am very excited to watch Street Hunter from 1990.
Yes. Stakes are high. Excitement is high. Buttholes are clenched. Let's do this.
I'm excited for this. I'm also a little worried because we have this image of Steve James built up in our minds based on these amazing images that we have seen from multiple movies, and we're expecting that same thing from Street Hunter, only more of it. What if we don't get that? What if this story is not Steve James kicking ass, but something completely random that we don't like?
Are you arguing that is Steve James not actually leading this movie and we have been misled, or are you just saying what if the movie sucks?
Both. Steve James thing we've watched so far has been awesome.
Steve James has been awesome in the movie.
Yes,
that's what I mean. Thank you for the clarification.
Are we going to have a Cynthia Rothrock moment? Is that what you're fearing?
That's it. I'm worried that we might have a Cynthia Rothrock moment where she's amazing, but then we pick the wrong movie and it harms our overall opinion.
We have slim pickings when it comes to Steve James-led movies. I found 3 or 4 and put them in our Discord. So there's this. A movie called Cat, but the C, A, and T are all capitalized, it's an acronym. There's a part 1 and 2 of that. There's a movie called Riverbend. There isn't much where Steve James was in a lead role. So who knows how this is going to go?
If this turns out amazing, then it's going to be even more of a travesty that he wasn't given more opportunities, because that guy was a god.
Yeah. I want to say, you wouldn't know that this was a Steve James-led movie from the box art because they put Reb Brown, famous from Strike Commando, on the cover, and he is, towering over Steve James. But I believe he's actually the bad guy in this. So, the 80s and early 90s were so racist, they opted to put the evil white guy on the cover to sell the movie rather than Steve James, who was clearly better and more awesome and superior in every way.
I mean, I think they just feared the charisma and power of Steve James. If they put Steve James on the cover, like, the world would change. The world would change.
Steve James, by the way, if the cover is to be believed, he is wearing a, like, leather duster-style trench coat and a cowboy hat, and I have never been more sexually confused in my life.
I am not confused at all.
He looks like, for anyone that's played Fallout 3, he looks like one of the regulators, like the good guys, like the town sheriff of Megaton is like one of their leaders or whatever.
Is this going to be a Western-esque sort of film here?
I mean, I don't like Westerns, but I'm all about a Steve James Western, if that is in fact what we get.
Yeah, I'm all in. I don't know what to expect from this, but I'm all in.
Yeah, I say we do it. I don't have anything else to say. Steve James, I trust in you. Do not let
nothing else needs to be said. Steve James, that's all we need to say. I will point out, though, that the description of this on the video watching just says Steve James is Blade. Ooh. So there's some...
His name in this is Logan Blade, which is awesome. Hang on. Before we get into the movie, I want to point out some, like, weird Wikipedia conspiracy theory shenanigans. I tried to find this movie on Wikipedia, and it doesn't have an article. But when you go to Reb Brown, who, again, we discovered recently from Strike Commando, he does have a listing for Street Hunter in his Wikipedia. But when you click on it, it redirects to a Michael Dudikoff movie that is not this.
This is some Illuminati shit. I told you. There is a grand conspiracy because they fear Steve James. Like, the 1% fears the power of Steve James. Even posthumously, they can't handle it. So they're, like, wiping him off Wikipedia. That's why we had to go to the Crud Buddies. The Crud Buddies are, like, the pipeline to the Steve James.
The literal pipeline.
Yes. Yes, they are fighting the good fight.
The Tramp Stampable Crud Buddies.
That's a band name right there.
It is.
Cool, man.
I don't want to know what DJ would wear on stage for a Crud Buddies show.
I don't.
Nothing.
I don't want to know that. All right, guys, let's get this started. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get straight to the Steve James. We're going to start minutes 0 through 15 in 5, 4, 3, 2, play. Okay.
We were just reminiscing about Humpty Dumpty, and Rachel really misses it.
Yeah.
Hello, Humpty.
Hello, Humpty. All right, let's talk about Street Hunter in minutes 1 through 15. We start with Mr. Steve James Logan Blade in this van with his trench coat and his cowboy hat and his dog named Munch. And they're driving to a cemetery where Mr. John Leguizamo, who none of us had any idea was in this movie, is leading
the fetus of John Leguizamo. Uh-huh.
He is leading a group of identically dressed garbage men in jumpsuits and white baseball caps, and they're going to do some casual grave robbing. And so they knock over the lightest tombstone that any of us have ever seen in our lives.
They just tap it and it falls over.
Yeah, they just tap it. I'm pretty sure I could go buy that from Spirit of Halloween right now. It's probably made of styrofoam. But they steal some drugs. And then this guy named Louis shows up and he confronts John Leguizamo. And Louis says, you just what you came to visit your mom and just happened to find our stash of drugs. And so Louis and his men are about to kill John Leguizamo, but John Leguizamo has a trump card in the form of a guy named Colonel Walsh, who I believe is played by Reb Brown of To Be Fair and Strike Commando fame.
Oh, okay.
And so Colonel Walsh massacres all of Louis's men except for Louis, and John Leguizamo goes to congratulate Colonel Walsh, and you're nearly worth all the money I'm paying you, and tries to be all buddy with him, and Reb Brown, Colonel Walsh, like pushes him away. He's like, "Don't touch me," and he starts talking about he's addicted to like victory.
I wrote the quote down.
Go for it.
He said it's not about the money; it's about the taste of triumph. and the ecstasy of glory.
Mm.
That's like something you'd hear at watching Spartacus. Like Crixus would say something like this: "The taste of triumph, the ecstasy of glory, for Rome."
So, Colonel Walsh just, when he's shooting Louis' men, he just stands there, screams, and points the gun, like, and kind of like wags the gun around, which I'm pretty sure I also saw him do in Strike Commando. So this is just his thing. He plants himself, he waves a gun back and forth, and people around him die. Apparently, Reb Brown is a force of fucking nature.
There's a moment in this later on when you're going to get to where Steve James is like in the cop's office. He sits on the desk the exact same way he does in American Ninja 2 when he's encountering that I don't know, that general or whatever, and he goes in there and then he's like, well, I remember what the line was. He's like, "You better get this fucking guy out of my face" or something. He does the exact same thing here.
We should start compiling a list of Steve James isms, but I think the isms will all just be, and then Steve James was cooler than the white guy. So
Facts.
Colonel Walsh just leaves, and so John Leguizamo goes over to Louis, because Louis, when Colonel Walsh was massacring his men, went and hid in the car, and so Louis is down on his knees. John Leguizamo's got a gun to his head, and they're screaming back and forth. And Louis,
This is intense.
This
is really intense.
It really is, but he alternates between really chastising, dressing down John Leguizamo, telling him how terrible he is, and then he starts pleading for his life. And then towards the end, his voice changes to this child's voice, it's just, I to the point where I thought, did they just dub this guy's voice with the little kid? But he goes yeah, fuck you, my dad's gonna fucking kill you. I don't want to die, man. And it's it's very it was weird, but it was also really good. But then John Leguizamo calls him, let me make sure I've got it here, a garlic stinking pepperoni motherfucker. Garlic stinking pepperoni motherfucker, and executes him.
This movie co-written by Steve James, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains the good writing. Okay.
And so Steve James has just been watching all of this. Steve James isn't really in much of this opening fight. He's just standing there with his dog watching it. When he pulls up to the cemetery, he says, what do you think, Munch? We got this, something like that. And then it just pans over to the dog, and then it pans back over to Steve James. It's awesome. So when it's down to when Colonel Walsh is gone and Louis' men are dead, and it's just John Leguizamo, whose name is Angel in this movie, when John Leguizamo and his 4 garbage man buddies are all that's left, then Steve James approaches them, and they're making small talk. You just killed a drug lord's son. It's going to be much safer if you just come to me with jail. And he and John Leguizamo have this kind of casual back and forth, and then Steve James' face just changes. All of the joy goes out of his face, and you know that shit's about to get serious. So at this point, he tells him, come with me or bad shit's going to happen to you. And so when John Leguizamo is clearly not going to cooperate, he sends Munch the dog to bite one of the garbage men, and then Steve James kills all of the rest of the people except for John Leguizamo. And then Steve James bends over and offers John Leguizamo some beef jerky.
Thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Slow down. No need to rush.
And then Steve James bends over, and there was just this pause. Okay.
And then it was time for the garlic stinking pepperoni motherfucker.
And then it was time for crud buddies.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So Steve James, John Leguizamo, turns down Steve James' generous offer of beef jerky and just says, don't have your dog bite, keep your dog from biting me, and I will go with you to the jail. And Steve James very seriously says, Munch doesn't bite people, he eats them. And then he arrests John Leguizamo and takes John Leguizamo to the police station, where we get a little bit of backstory about who Steve James is. Steve James used to be a cop, but he was framed for a crime. And even though he was ultimately acquitted, he basically said, fuck the police force, you challenged my integrity, and so he quit and became a bounty hunter. But he's still really good friends with most of the police force. He's like getting handshakes from people if he goes in, and specifically in like a twist from most like 80s action movies, like the captain of the police force is on like really good terms with Steve James, and the captain says, we got Angel. I'm going to throw him in jail. I'm going to have your money tomorrow or Monday or whatever. And Steve James is like, thank you very much. I appreciate you cutting through all the bullshit and red tape. It's very casual friendship. And then two loser cops come in and start chastising Steve James. They call him a vigilante. Steve James gives them the details on Colonel Walsh. Steve James believes that even though he calls himself Colonel Walsh, he actually probably hasn't been affiliated with the Army for a long time. And that's pretty much where we're at. There's one cop named Wellman who really doesn't like Steve James, but everyone else is super cool with him.
You better get out of my face, man.
Yeah. Steve James is wearing entirely too much clothes in this. I'm just going to put that out there now.
We are used to seeing him in like a vest at
There
most.
is a distinct lack of flesh so far in this. I'm used to like, like a very tiny Shalom Y'all t-shirt and or leather vest. So
Do you think he's going to get out of this duster at all in this movie?
I don't know.
Maybe for the final showdown.
The other thing I was thinking is, are we going to see him do any martial arts in this movie, or is it just going to be shooting guns?
I feel like I think this is going to be kind of gun heavy, but I feel like he has to have like an actual fight with Colonel Walsh towards the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will accept a bunch of Steve James gun battles, but I want Steve James martial arts.
We want him fighting without many clothes on.
Yeah.
With his fist. That's what we want. Steve James, he's the co-writer on this. He's got to know what his target audience wants.
Right?
I believe in him.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get the guns out. Like, it's going to be a gun show of some variety.
What do we think? I have two questions. One is kind of filmmaking overall, but one is about the actual plot. What do we think he was falsely accused of?
Moida. Murder. Falsely accused of murdering an undercover informant.
All right, fair enough. I don't have anything better. The other thing I wanted to ask about...
This is a drug heavy. Maybe he was accused of stealing drugs or something.
That would make most sense, because
yeah.
when he's transporting John Leguizamo to jail, there is this extended scene of him driving around and listening to the radio, and the radio is all about the war on drugs, and most people consider the fact that drugs are a thing to be the reason that society is collapsing, and the president is authorizing aid in the war on drugs to all these other countries and blah blah blah. So yeah, very drug heavy movie, so that would make the most sense.
HW at this point, right? He'd be president at this time, George H.W. Bush, 1990?
Yeah, yep, that would be him.
Yeah. War on drugs.
Yeah.
So I have a question about just filmmaking, and since we have a director, air quotes here.
Wow.
It's true, Rachel. It's true.
What is this is something that I only really noticed it with this and Strike Commando, but I'm sure I've seen hundreds of movies that did this and they just didn't really click. What is the deal with so many of these like cheesy like 80s 90s action movies? They open with like 3 minutes of credits. It's like the end credits in reverse, and then they start the action. Like, why is that a thing? That's certainly not not a thing that movies do now.
No,
Matthew?
people don't. No, people don't do it now. But it used to be a big deal, like you said, in the 80s. It was just like, hey, we want to give the cast and crew their props up front, right? Because no one sticks around for the end credits. Nobody. So they want to give the cast and crew props up front. And then the first film, I mean, obviously it wasn't the first one that did it, but the one that really stands out, the film that happened in the 90s that changed all this was Seven. Because Seven had the opening credits, but it had the crazy sort of visuals and everything that went with it. And from that point forward, most opening credit sequences didn't really... They had a visual component to them, not just a text. But to give credit to people, to John Leguizamo, so we see John Leguizamo.
That's true.
Like, we would have missed it.
I was about to say that we could have started the movie at the 3-minute mark, and I could have still told you everything that I just told you, but we wouldn't have known so early that Mr. John Leguizamo is going to be in this. Speaking of which, what would you like me to tell Mr. Leguizamo on Twitter?
Oh, jeez.
And we will, of course, be tagging Rachel in this.
Yes.
No!
Let's think about this.
No!
What I will say is I was quite surprised at the sort of intensity of the scene when John Leguizamo shoots the guy in the head. Like, that was an extended screaming match, and it's almost like, God damn, that guy really didn't want to die. He really didn't want to die, and he goes through it like...
changes. Like, when he hits the acceptance point...
Yeah. It was actually really good writing. It made me like, oh man, this is kind of like intense, and I can totally feel why that guy does not. I mean, I've never had a gun directly pointed at my head like that. We won't go into other stories, but I would be pretty terrified, I think, if that was me in that situation, especially if it was John Leguizamo on the other side of the gun.
Right.
Ask him about that scene, Steve.
Okay. At John Leguizamo.
Ask him if he was high on coke when he had to do that scene.
Okay, were you high? No, I will not be doing that.
Oh my god. Do not tag me in this.
Is this the movie that prepared you to play Violator in the Spawn film?
Okay, done.
Yeah, this opening 15 minutes, it's okay. I wanted a little bit more than Steve James just standing motionless with a couple guns shooting people and gunning them down. I'm a little concerned that going forward we're not going to get a lot of action with fisticuffs, which is what I want.
Yeah.
And we're going to see, though. But I will be interested to see what the message is on drugs in this. Is this a commentary that the war on drugs is a bad thing at the time? Because that would have been kind of novel at the time. Or is this a film going to ultimately be a message that the war on drugs was a good thing at the time? I'll be interested to see what the commentary is on this, because it's very heavy-handed right now with the drugs being a problem.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to get back into it. So let's watch minutes 15 to 30 of Street Hunter, and I'm all set for more Steve James goodness. Our first tweet has been fired out to John Leguizamo. You guys
first of many.
Continue to send me the appropriate things you would like me to send to them.
Appropriate.
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, play. Wow. I don't know, guys.
Wow. Wow, Mr. Blade. Wow. This had some real highs and lows.
Yeah.
Highs and lows.
I'm having a good time, but this is definitely not the movie that we've seen Steve James in the past. But he co-wrote this. Maybe this was the movie that he wanted to make all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Alright, so this 15 minutes is really like relationship and backstory heavy. It sets a lot of things up, and nothing really gets paid off in this segment here.
Well, I can think of one thing that got paid off.
Okay, Rachel got what she needed.
And how many orgasms did you have, Rachel?
Thrice.
Okay.
Oh boy.
I am still orgasming.
It continues, like
It's
flowing like a fucking
It's
fountain.
real long. Yeah, it just goes.
Oh my god.
What the hell are we doing? All right, this 15 minutes, it continues with Steve James's confrontation with Cop Wellman, who I get the feeling he's going to end up being a bad guy. But Wellman is telling Steve James that it's a good thing that you were framed because you were too cocky, you needed to be taken down a peg. And Steve James says, you know what the problem with you is, Wellman? You got no balls. And he grabs the guy's balls, but Wellman doesn't react at all. This is a weird scene. Like, you would expect that Steve James is going to come out the winner of this confrontation between himself and evil cop Wellman, but he doesn't. Like Wellman, like absolutely gets the better of Steve James in this scene, but then the Wellman's cop buddy just tells him, let it go, move on, blah blah blah. There's a lot of scenes of extended scenes of Steve James being friends with a lot of cops on the force. He goes and has this long conversation with a guy who's going to be guarding John Leguizamo. They discuss life and being cops, and they talk about this guy's wife, and Steve James says give her my love, but keep a close eye on John Leguizamo because
he's a bad mamma jamma.
He's a bad mamma jamma. So then soon after this cop and a couple other cops are transporting John Leguizamo, I guess, to another jail, when suddenly Colonel Walsh's little private army attacks and kills all the cops, including Steve James's cop buddy that he just discussed dude's wife with. And then Colonel Walsh says, "We got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. Got to get out of here now. That includes you, John Leguizamo." But John Leguizamo pauses anyway to get a rocket launcher and blow up a cop car. That is the end of the action in this 15 minutes, because then it cuts to Steve James hanging out in a nightclub where a young woman goes and tries to hit on him. Who wouldn't? Unfortunately for her, Steve James is taken by a woman named Denise, who is just giving him the fucking stink eye for like the entire segment when they're at this nightclub. Meanwhile, two guys are outside and they decide to start trying to break into Steve James's van. And one guy is all gung-ho, like, no, we're going to rob this van. The other guy is like, no, I know who Steve James is. We should not be doing this. And these guys show up multiple times in this segment. Steve James is in the nightclub. His woman is named Denise, but before that, he just refers to her as my lady. And
I think they were crud buddies.
The best of crud buddies. She is upset with him. She sings a song at this club, then goes back to her dressing room, and Steve James tries to kind of win her back, and I don't even know how to describe this, but he goes into her room. She's like, "Can we talk?" I'm opening the door. I'm inside the door. Okay, I've shut the door. I'm walking towards you, like left foot, right foot. Look at my new shirt I'm wearing. You're not having any of this. And he's just realizing that all of his charm is not working on this woman.
And that's how you know this is fictional.
Nerves of steel. This fictional woman in this movie.
He co-wrote this. Maybe he wanted to write something like outside of his own comfort zone.
Amazing?
Yeah. Where he's just like, every woman throws themselves at me constantly, but I want to play a character in which, one does not.
Let me write myself as a flawed individual so that I can pretend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So they kind of have this like superhero relationship dynamic, because she basically wants him to quit what he's doing, but he's like, I have to do this. With great responsibility, etc., because he wanted to be a cop. His dad was a cop. If he can take just one bad guy off the streets, then it's all worth it. But she's unhappy because
that's how I feel every day.
Yes, Matt is full of responsibility. He also lives in a van with a dog, like Steve James does in this movie. Steve James lives in this van with Munch the dog, because she said like, he doesn't even have an apartment. He has nothing, and she is wanting, after 5 years, to, I guess, take the relationship to the next step. She wants him to quit being a vigilante, a bounty hunter, whatever you call it. She wants him to, start a security company, work for the DA's office, basically do anything other than go out and fight bad guys every night, which, I don't know, that's like asking Superman not to fly, because this is Steve motherfucking James.
Come on, Lois. Give us a break here.
Yeah, it's... I feel like we're not going to be a fan of this character. But she's trying to get Steve James to stop Steve Jamesing, and that's just never something we can be on board with.
I don't feel like Steve James is Steve Jamesing much in this movie so far, though.
I believe in him.
Okay.
This is going to get better.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like, he's trying to like branch out from his usual action role, and we really just want him to karate chop
Remember
some
what
people.
my concern was in the first segment. Right now,
God damn it! I hate it when Matthew is right.
I'm being validated right now. As of now.
We don't have to air this if it turns out Matt was correct. And we don't
We'll just
What?
we'll just run Ninja. It'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, God.
Fine.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some. So there's as you would expect, Denise ultimately forgives Steve James because he's Steve James. There's a Steve James sex scene. And then it cuts back outside to the two guys that are still trying to rob his van. And when one of them gets close to breaking in, this alarm goes off, and this display within the van says engage security systems. And so the back doors fly open, and then Munch the dog comes out and basically just like keeps him on the ground. So it cuts back to Steve James, who has wrapped up doing what he's doing with his lady. And he goes outside, and these two guys are still like just laying on the street. They have been kept there by Munch the dog this entire time. And so he picks one of the guys up. He's like, see, you were trying to steal my van. What's your name? They have this conversation. And he's like, I'm in a good mood today because I'm with my lady. Look at her. She's back there. And
I just got laid.
Yeah. He's all smiles because he just got laid. So he's telling this criminal guy whose name is Melvin. It's like, look at her. She's fine. Tell her she's fine. Tell her she's beautiful. Blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, stop it, look back at me. And Melvin has no fucking idea what to do at this point in his life. And so Steve James says, I know you. I know your sister. I know your grandma. I know where you live. So here's what you're going to do. I'm in a good mood. First of all, would you like some beef jerky? This beef jerky is apparently going to be a recurring theme in this movie because reasons. But
I feel like Big Slim Jim is like producing this.
No,
I need some.
Macho Man.
I would eat some Steve James beef jerky.
I mean,
yes, you would.
Metaphorically.
But he tells Melvin and the other guy, who the other guy who was actually trying to commit the crime, is presumably still lying on the ground in terror at this point. But he's telling Melvin, I'm in a good mood, so here's what we're gonna do. You're going to go down to the police station and turn yourself in, or I'm going to let my dog eat you. And that's it. That's where we are in this movie. Not gonna lie, I'm starting to feel like Matt is right. This
is rough so far.
This is very rough.
Well, maybe this is building. We're building. We're getting some character stuff. We talk a lot about stakes on the Andor podcast. This is the stake building portion of the film, so that when people are in peril, we're going to care a lot because we've had these really great character building. I'm trying.
Whatever helps
I'm
you sleep
trying.
at night. I will say, who directed this? I need to look up to see who actually directed this because it's directed very poorly. It's very stagnant. There's no, like, even the action scenes with gunfire and stuff, it's just people standing in place shooting guns. There's no like fluid camera. There's nothing that you would get, like, even in an American Ninja movie, right? We have fluid cameras and we have cool, interesting action. We've got none of that.
This is a very different Steve James movie.
This is directed by John A. Gallagher. That name's not jumping out at me. Does that mean anything to you two? He's dead, so he got his comeuppance if this movie ends up.
Oh my God!
Whoa! Okay, I was not expecting you to go there.
Steve is going hard tonight. I love it.
We have all said worse things about dead people in our lives.
I mean,
he's known for a movie called The Deli, Syracuse, The Networker, and Blue Moon. Movies I've never heard of before in my life. Yeah, but it's ugly. Like the film, and obviously, granted, we're not looking at a great quality print here of this, but it's really hard to see a lot of the stuff. It's boring. Like, just the way it's shot is very, very boring. Even the sex scene's a letdown. It's like, come on, give me like 4 or 5, 6, 10, 15 minutes of that, and really show me the things that we need to be shown. But what? Sorry, what? Go ahead, continue.
That was it. Like, there's not a whole lot of content in this 15 minutes. I'm still into it though. I'm still thinking that this is going to get better.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, I don't know what I like the music. The music in the movie's pretty good, I think. Right?
I'm trying to remember it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the next 15 minutes here.
Don't let us down, please. Don't fail us.
Minutes 30 through 45 of Street Hunter. Yeah, starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play.
I think I should start drinking.
Steve, this was a very bad choice.
But it should have been great.
We should not have made this choice in our lives. This whole segment should be spoken like this.
Rachel, it's man talk.
This is how men talk, Rachel.
It's like Destro.
Oh, you guys, this movie's bad. This is real bad.
This might be. I don't think this is the worst movie. we've
No.
watched this season.
It's not the worst.
This is probably the most disappointed I have been in a movie on the CP. I have no idea what to make of this. Like, for the subject matter, which is like cop killing drug lords, and then there's a drug war in the middle of this city. It is like almost It's like light-hearted to its detriment. Like, no one in this movie is treating anything seriously at all, and it's weird. And I kind of want to go watch American Ninja 2 again, but I'm not, because we're gonna finish this.
I'm sorry,
there's like none of the like sparkle. You know what I mean? Like Curtis Armstrong was always like cheeky grin, kind of in on the joke, and there's none of that. There's humor in this, but like it's none of it is Steve James. Like he's the straight man in this, and that's not what we're here for. We want to see that charisma.
Yeah, there's a definite lack of charisma here. There's a definite lack of competent filmmaking skills here.
I feel like it's like a play. It looks like it's like everything is set. Yeah.
Piss on your grave, John A. Gallagher.
Yeah, this is I don't know. Like,
No,
I don't have much to say about it. Honestly,
Like,
there's nothing to say.
Everyone in this movie is treating Steve James like he has the charisma that he had in the American Ninja movies, but none of it's on display here, and it's really
Troubling.
It's real trouble.
Is it possible that Steve James did not realize his own charisma when he wrote this movie?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, you know, it's like when a Disney star goes and does, like, a sexy photo shoot or something. Like, they want to, like, break out and show a different side of themselves. Like, he's like, I'm tired of being pigeonholed as someone with charisma. I need to go in a completely different direction.
I am too good. I need a movie that's going to knock me down a peg.
I need to humanize myself. I'm too godlike. And guess what? You know, like, he did it, God damn it.
So what you're saying is, in a roundabout way, this movie is a success.
Yeah, what I'm saying is 10 out of 10.
God.
Believe you, Rachel.
I can't decide if I like that or not. Like, I'm going back and forth.
Oh, you like it?
What about
You
this?
like it?
I think I do. No.
All right, let's talk about this 15 minutes, because I'm telling myself the next 15 is going to be better.
We got some boobies.
We did get some.
Yes, Clarence Rat Kratos in the bed with the ladies.
From a guy that has no business landing himself a threesome. God, all right, let's talk about this movie. We continue on from the last 15 minutes where Steve James is still chatting with Pretzel Melvin, who tells Steve James asks him, "Are you in?"
Pretzel Melvin.
That's his name. Like, his name is Melvin. His nickname is Pretzel. They call him Pretzel Melvin. I don't know why. That's what they wrote in the script.
Oh, now
I
want a
completely
pretzel.
missed that. You know, side tangent. I hate pretzels. I think they're disgusting. They're gross.
You're insane.
They're
You
Soft
are
pretzels
insane.
Are good. Hard pretzels are gross.
Okay, that's fair. We
All
can make that
pretzels
distinction.
are disgusting.
You're disgusting.
No, that is
You're-
crazy talk.
You're my crud buddy. You're disgusting too.
Pretzel tramp stamps. That's what we're getting now.
Oh no.
Okay, I'm in. Now you've got me. Now you've got me.
Steve James asks Pretzel Melvin, "Are you in school?" Pretzel Melvin says, "Yes, I'm a valedictorian." Steve James tells him, "All right, we're gonna promise each other. You're gonna go to school. You're gonna graduate, and I and
It's
your
like
sister
Michael
and your
Scott
grandma
all over again.
are going to the ceremony, and I better see a diploma get put in your hand. But go turn yourself into the cops. I don't know that that's gonna work out exactly how he planned." So Steve James is about to go on a date with his lady Denise, who comments that she thinks that the dog is jealous of their relationship because the dog is just staring her down. And then Steve James gets a call from the police captain. Denise is like, don't answer the phone. This is my time now. Don't answer the phone. And Steve James says, I'm just going to call. I'm just going to pick up the phone and I'm going to tell him no. And he picks it up and tells him no. And Denise says, now hang up the phone. And you can tell Steve James is just, he's not going to do it. The captain tells him that, Angel, John Leguizamo, escaped. 9 cops are dead. And Steve James has to end his date to go and chat with the police. They swap stories, and Steve James is going to hit the streets and try to gather info. He talks to a cab driver who says that Crazy Eddie saw the whole thing. Crazy Eddie is this douchebag discount
Look at
Kratos.
the street hunter go. He's really tracking these leads.
Yep. He's putting in the detective work. He meets with Eddie, who is having this threesome because he promised a girl some appliances and CDs.
CDs.
Man.
The bar for threesomes was apparently real low in the early 90s.
Little
I
did
missed
she
out.
know that Columbia House would be a thing only a few years later. You get 12 CDs for a penny, lady.
Right,
Don't
right.
sell yourself short.
So Crazy Eddie tells Steve James that the Colombians are back in John Leguizamo, and Steve James is like, "Oh crap, Colombians!" And then at some point, I've lost,
crap, Colombians.
I've lost track of the order these events happen. But at some point, we also see Reb Brown, Colonel Walsh, and he's up on stage he looks like he's giving this grand speech, but there's 8 people in front of him listening to what he's saying, and he's talking about.
The rest are off busy spanking their monkeys.
Yeah, John Leguizamo says don't go spanking your monkeys. But before that, Red Brown, Colonel Walsh is he starts talking about Caesar and the triumph of will. And so Red Brown dismisses his 8 army people, and he has a conversation with John Leguizamo, and he starts talking, and he gets John Leguizamo away, and he's upset with John Leguizamo because John Leguizamo caused a delay at the cemetery, and then caused a delay when he was being broken out of the prison van, and he tries to be all friendly with Colonel Walsh, but Colonel Walsh is not having it. And he tells John Leguizamo, "This is not what I trained you to do." And he starts talking about Caesar and stationing sentries to guard against invaders, and he's doing it in this deadpan crazy robotic tone. So yeah, I'm also getting Nazi vibes from this guy.
Yeah.
Steve James goes to this Italian guy and requests a meeting with Don Mario, and they say we missed the man talk. When Steve, and we got to go back to that because it's very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
When Steve
We need
James,
to teach Rachel some things here about man
Yes.
Okay, all right. I would like my first lesson. What is man talk?
talk. Shut up is your first lesson. Let the men talk.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is about to be the shortest episode of the Stevecast of all time. My finger is hovering over stop
the
recording.
man talk joke is discount Kratos is having a threesome with these girls for the cost of a microwave, apparently. And Steve James tells the guy, you give me 1 minute or you go to jail for 5 years. Pick one. And so Kratos kicks them out and says, man talk. The ladies were very interested in Steve James joining their sex sandwich, but that didn't happen, to their great detriment. Anyway, so then we move on to the Italians, and Steve James is going to eventually have a meeting with Don Mario, who I think that's the dad of Lewis, the guy that John Leguizamo killed early on. And then it cuts to Colonel Walsh, and he gets a phone call, and it's from a guy on the phone saying, "We got a problem. Yes. The cops are involved. Steve James is involved. He's gonna come get you."
Don't worry, Steve. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get Steve James.
Yes, but cancer already did that.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh.
Oh my god!
What do you want from me? You set him up, I'm gonna knock him down.
You know what? Honestly, I love that you're choosing violence today.
We love Steve James. This movie is not
Just
changing
not
my
this movie.
opinion of him, just the opinion of this film itself. Yeah, so the guy who is loud whispering to Red Brown. Red Brown identifies him as a cop, so I'm assuming that's Wellman.
Wellman. It's got to be Wellman,
Yeah, it's gotta
right?
be Wellman. It is like a crazy red herring if it turns out this is not.
I don't
Wellman.
think it's
Like, what if
Wellman.
It's the
It's
captain?
yeah, I think it's his. I think it's someone he's friendly with. I think it's like maybe the guy that. Yeah, I don't. I think Wellman's a red herring because based on the writing of this film, which is excellent.
They can't set up a red herring. I'm with Rachel on this.
Okay.
We'll see.
See, Rachel, do you like how I talked over you?
I mean, you act like I haven't known you for 15 years.
Yeah. This is bad, guys.
This is
We're reaching.
You know,
we're reaching for entertaining content.
This is the lost episode. You know what? This is why I drink. I'm not drinking tonight. Maybe if I were drunk, I would be able to handle the Street Hunter, but it's breaking me, guys. It's breaking
Well, let's just break you some more. Let's get into minutes 45 through 60 of Street Hunter. We're gonna start this in 3, 2, play. Yep.
so disappointed.
Even the action scenes with Steve James are incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. Like, none of my expectations have been met, and I'm very, very sad. God. All right, let's talk about this disappointing movie.
Oh, Steve.
The quiet cop on the phone continues to talk to Colonel Wash, and Colonel Wash says that what's the quote, the line? He said, Logan Blade, they call him the Street Hunter. It's not a name that he gave himself. So
Yeah, the
apparently-
cop is very scared.
Yes, the cop is very scared of Logan Blade.
I don't know why, because we really haven't seen why anyone should really be scared of him yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's killed 4 guys and fought 1 guy. We're an hour into this movie.
I
That's
would
it.
argue the most badass thing about him is Munch. Like,
Yes.
Munch is doing all the work. He's
His
just
dog-
walking around
Yes.
wearing a hat.
If the
That's it.
dog was wearing the hat, it would be a 10 out of 10.
Remix.
So our possible Nazi Colonel Wash says, well, we'll use a weapon to fight a weapon, and then John Leguizamo comes in, and suddenly Colonel Wash is discussing the Trojan horse, and apparently that just means we're gonna lay a trap for Steve James, and so a guy who wants to join John Leguizamo's gang, which is the Diablos. He calls Steve James and says, hey, I have information, meet me at some place. And Steve James picks an abandoned theater as the location. They go to meet, and sure enough, it's a trap. There's a sniper
It's a
who's going
trap.
to take out Steve James, but Munch shows up, putting in work, hero of the movie, and knocks the sniper off of this, I don't know, high spot in the theater. And then Steve James has the worst fight scene that I've ever seen Steve James participate in. The informant pulls out a machete, and Steve James pulls out like a baton? Like, what is that? I don't know. But they fight, and it is real rough. Not up to the high standards that Mr. James has set for himself in the past. Steve James arrests him.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Is it possible that Canon Films brought out the best in Steve James because they were, flush with cash? They could do these extended long action sequences, whereas Street Hunter clearly has no budget whatsoever and probably had to be shot real quick. By the way, I've been looking up some trying to find some facts on this movie while trying to not pay attention to it and try to find something interesting online about it. We were talking about the conspiracy, the Michael Dudikoff Street Hunter Wikipedia entry. Well, the Michael Dudikoff, Steven Dorff film Rescue Me was released under the title Street Hunter in Germany. So that's why we were confused on Wikipedia.
See, look at him always trying to steal Steve James' shine.
So Michael Dudikoff was so petty that he had a movie that he made renamed to steal Steve James'
Tweet
title.
that man. Tweet that man, Steve. Let him know we're on to him. No one pulls the wool over the Stevecast eyes. We know. We know. I feel like we have to watch another one of his movies, though, because we need to know now. I need to know. Is he... I like this feverish typing I'm hearing in the background. I need to know if this is a Street Hunter problem or is a Steve James problem ultimately. Like, have we been fooled, or is this just a bad movie?
We clearly know that Steve James has the ability, right, to make an awesome character.
Of course.
Charismatic, awesome action scenes. We know he has the ability because we've seen it multiple times. But we have to blame him a little bit for this because he co-wrote it, right? This is partially his baby, if not all of it his baby. And so this is just a real bad...
See that accountability right here on the Stevecast. I tweeted Michael Dudikoff and it said, why did you steal Steve James's movie title for Rescue Me? That was Steve's film, and I yelled that at him. Something that I meant to mention, this is just like keeping me from continuing to talk about the movie. Crazy Eddie, who was having the threesome, referred to Colonel Walsh's troops. He said something like, it was like something from Iwo Jima, which made me laugh out loud because I have this distinct memory of DJ mispronouncing that movie, and he called it Letters from Iowa Jimmy.
Iowa Jimmy.
No!
You guys ever seen that Letters of Iowa Jimmy?
Oh my God, you guys gotta make an Iowa Jimmy movie. You have to.
God, I'm losing it. Like, Steve James takes the informant to the police station. He refuses to talk. Like, what else happened in this segment?
So somebody's about to come in and do something to Steve James's girl.
Yes.
Because
So we got backstory on Colonel Walsh. That was the big breakthrough in this scene. What he does is he's a former military guy who escaped, like, war crimes in Vietnam or whatever, and
Nazi Germany.
He talks about the New Order at one point, which
yeah.
The Italians are the Colonel Walsh's army is out killing the Italians. Steve James he has a meeting with Don Mario, and he's trying to tell the Don, like, let me go after this guy. You know, there's a bounty on him. And it's also personal because he killed cops. Like, you know, you're a criminal, but you have this rule where you don't kill cops, and so, you know, we stay out of each other's way. But the Don completely shuts him down, which was a mistake, because the Diablos, they activate Project Kill the Italians and just start wiping them out. And that's where we're at. Steve James was going to go meet Denise, and it looks like someone's about to break into her home.
Denise is in peril.
Do we have any further theories of who Destro is? The Whisperer Man Talk? Any further theories?
It can't be Wellman. It can't be Wellman.
No, I think it's the guy that was just like, pew.
I feel like
so Wellman's partner. That would make sense.
Yeah, that's who I think it is. That's who I think it is. And I think he set him up. We're going to find out he was the one that set up our boy Steve James, who is going to be vindicated in the end and back on the force.
Have we found out, Steve, what he did?
No. Like, we just know that he was framed and then acquitted.
God, this writing is awful.
Awesome, I think.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, the writing is great, the directing is bad. That's how we're going to save this.
No, I don't think it should be said. Sometimes you just got to say, yeah, made a clunker. Made a clunker here. and this is a clunker.
Mm-hmm.
And let's continue on to the next 15 minutes so we don't spend another hour talking about this fucking movie. So we're going to get minutes 60 through 75 of Street Hunter. Thank you, Crud.
Iowa Jimmy. Dude, we've got to write like a short film called Letters to Iowa Jimmy. I don't know what it's going to be about, but
Can
we got to
cast DJ in
something.
it?
It's just gonna be DJ
Yes!
pronouncing things.
Yes. I mean, I have like a mental list of favorite DJ-isms. I did not know Iowa Jimmy,
We used
but it is.
We used to
it
call
is in there now.
call it.
It's
we
in
used to
there.
call them
What do you call it?
DJ-isms.
DJ.
There's also no cure for DJs, which is something that I've told before.
Oh.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play, guys. So, Steve, what happened?
I don't even...
At what point did your spirit leave your body? You're
Like
just
3
like, I'm done.
seconds ago. I've never been this disappointed in a film that we're watching on the Stevecast. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, what happens? So Rachel was correct. She called it about who the evil cop was. It was Riley, who was apparently Steve James's former partner. He says that he framed Steve James at the request of Don Romano, which I think is the same. Is Don Mario and Don
Romano sounds like a delicious sandwich. Like, I would order a Don Romano.
All right, well, there's a Don Romano who apparently was in on it with Riley. They conspired to set up Steve
Riley?
James, the partner, the traitor, the cop that turned on Steve James.
Okay. Sure.
Matt is completely checked out.
Yeah, this movie hath defeated us.
I'm.
There's still another 15 minutes.
God, Rachel's picking the next movie. No, wait, we have a schedule. When the schedule runs out, Rachel's picking all the rest of the movies.
You'll forget by then. It'll be fine.
No, I'm gonna put it in my phone. God. So Denise gets attacked by what I'm assuming are the worst henchmen, because they think she's in the shower. So they break into her apartment and they just unload on her in the shower, which clearly would have killed her if she was in the shower. But their orders were actually to kidnap her and use her as bait to lure in Steve James. But she is a better protagonist than Steve James in this movie, because she defeats like 3 bad guys on her own, including like getting one bad guy to accidentally slice the throat of another bad guy before throwing like hot cooking oil in someone's face and then beating him with a frying pan. She only loses...
Best action scene in the movie, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
Rename the Street Huntress, because
I'm gonna look up that name, and I feel that sounds kind of porny, but we'll see what happens. She only loses the fight because the guy with the machine gun shows up, but then Steve James comes up behind him and pulls a gun. And then Riley shows up and pulls a gun on Steve James and reveals that he was the traitor all along. And so
you know what I realized watching this segment, why this movie is not working for me? Because in the American Ninja movies, Steve James would just fucking kill these people. He would just kill them. And so many times throughout this movie, Steve James doesn't kill anybody because he's playing like a good guy, quasi-cop. He was a good cop, whatever. But in those other movies, it was a ninja, he would just fucking kill him. And it's like, hey, if this guy tried to like rape my girl and I had a gun to his head, the Steve James I know and love would just pull the trigger and kill him dead. Same thing in this at the end of this segment here, where she's tied up and the guy's threatening to rape her and everything like that. Steve James gets the gun and just holds the gun on him and doesn't shoot this guy. And I'm like, this is why it's not working for me.
Yeah, it's real rough, but Riley.
He needs to get out more bullets and less beef jerky.
Yeah, where's the beef jerky at? Like, the beef jerky he's all right. The end of the movie is he's going to offer beef jerky to someone, right? Like, they have to pay that off.
100%.
100% all in on beef jerky ending. There's a
I love
car
Munch,
chase.
by the way. Munch.
Munch
is
great.
And
what's up.
I was thinking, oh, we should just name this movie Munch Hunter. But then I was like, that's probably a different movie.
Okay, if that exists, that is my pick for the Stevecast.
Hold on, I'm
Munch
googling
Hunter.
it. Munch Hunter.
Hunter Munch has an Instagram. Also Munch Hunter. All right, so there's Hunter Munch and Munch Hunter. They both have Instagrams, so feel free to
But
go find
there's
it.
no movie called Munch Hunter?
There's no movie that I can find. All right,
Oh, we got a
Munch Hunter
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a movie called Munch
Hunter.
Hunter.
I put Munch Hunter, but when I put in Munch Hunter movie, the top response in Google is Monster Hunter.
Oh shit! Wow, we need to get that URL, munchhunters.com.
Yeah. God, that sounds... When you pluralize it, it sounds even worse.
We have facialblasters.com. Now we gotta get munchhunters.com. Let's get Jeff on that.
I mean, it's just an investment, like some people are investing in gold. We're going to GoDaddy for munchhunters.com.
We are investing in terrible URLs. There's a car chase. Riley dies. Steve James shoots him with a fucking harpoon. Colonel Walsh has kidnapped Denise and uses her to take Steve James hostage. Colonel Walsh
Spoils of war.
Yeah, they refer to women as the spoils of war. Colonel Walsh tells Steve James that Denise is your downfall, blah, blah, blah. They start talking about Vietnam and wars, and Colonel Walsh thinks that he and Steve James are like kindred spirits because they both used to be soldiers and they know how the world really is, and there always has to be a fight to fight. All this is an excuse to keep Steve James alive because Colonel Walsh has just become the stereotypical James Bond villain who doesn't take the obvious opportunity to kill the good guy. This is trash. I'm out of... I can't spin this in a positive way anymore. I am so let down and defeated.
Not even Tucker Carlson could spin this into something plausible. This is
bad.
bad.
I thought we had bottomed out, and you brought
I had to bring the Tucker Carlson in for you, Rachel. Yeah, the spin. There's nothing that can be done to spin this into something positive.
Is there
bad.
any chance the trench comes off and it unleashes the Steve James when he's free of it? It's
unleashes the Steve James. I mean, I hope so. I do want to say that I kind of had this thought several segments ago when the two guys are trying to steal his van, and you get this warning thing that says security system activated, and the doors burst open, and then later on the doors close, and then in this segment we see that he's got the inside of his van is like the inside of a fucking spaceship, and he's got rocket boosters on the van. He basically has the Punisher's battle van, and it's not put to any use whatsoever in this movie.
Nothing is put to use in this movie.
I will be
Steve
delighted.
James is not put to use in this movie.
Bless his heart. Yeah, I want to see him rocket off in that van, it just take off. Is there any chance
to a better film?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I would support that. Steve James just leaves and walks into a better movie where he resumes the role of sidekick.
Was he making this when American Ninja 4: The Annihilation was happening?
He must
be
have.
right around the same time.
Yeah, I think we decided that American Ninja 4 came out in 91. This came out in 90, so...
He might have been filming around that time. Maybe he was just really into developing this and said, hey, I want a starring role. I can't fault him for wanting to be the lead.
Not.
I cannot fault him for that. But man, I wish that maybe one exists. Yeah, maybe one exists, like a canon level sort of film where he stars in, but this is not the one. If this were the first Steve James movie we ever saw, we would never want to watch another Steve James movie.
No, we would not celebrate Steve James Day annually. No.
Do you think after this, are we just returning to the normal Steve James movie, or do you feel scared now to give the handful of other Steve James led films a shot?
No.
Right
I think
now,
we have
I'm
to.
not feeling good.
I think we have to. We have to, because this can't be where it ends.
Like, I feel like I could live with this and just tell myself that, like, no one's perfect, everyone makes a bad movie, but what if we see 2 bad Steve James movies?
But what if we see an amazing one? You know what I mean? I don't want to miss out on the joy because of fear. I will not let fear dictate my life. I need to see the other ones. We got to do it. Are we
Okay,
fans
so
or are we not fans?
Rachel has programmed the rest of the Stevecast after we run out of the calendars.
Great.
Yeah, and you guys can always go back to the first American Ninja. That's awesome. He's awesome in that.
Or
just
maybe
like
I will decide that I have now been burned by Steve James and I will not watch other Steve James movies.
Oh, yes. See, denying
Here we
yourself
go.
the potential
Here we go.
of the great
Here we
Steve
go.
James.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rachel,
I
basically, you
see
and
this
I
a
have
pattern.
to watch. You and I will watch these great Steve James movies, and we'll tell Steve.
Here's the
"Man,
thing:
it's
is
fucking great."
if he bails on us, that is a guarantee that the rest of them will be like, mwah, chef's kiss.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true.
So bail, Steve. Get out of here.
Okay, I'll leave.
No, I'm kidding. I love you. Don't go.
It becomes the Rachel cast.
Oh God. Oh God.
There's nothing else. Like, Steve James has been captured. Munch runs away. There was a scene that I liked where Steve James and Munch are there. Denise has been taken hostage, so he clearly like can't just go fight all these people and break free. But Munch runs off, and Colonel Walsh says, "Kill the mutt." And the guy shoots the dog and misses, and he says, "Sorry," and turns back around. And then Colonel Walsh just pulls out a gun and shoots the guy. He's like, "Remember, folks, you can't miss when you're in the field, or you can't miss when you're in a war." So he just executes one of his men.
Go, Joe!
Yeah.
I will say here another missed opportunity with Munch. So when that dude is like unzipping his pants because he's gonna like rape
Bite
Steve
his
James's
dick off.
wife, yes, they cut to a shot of Munch. Why didn't Munch just run in there, bite him in the dick? He's screaming, and that's what causes him to drop the gun. And then Steve James gets it that way, and then guns him down with the entire clip out of spite.
That's a better movie. That's a
That's
better
a
Yeah,
way
I was
better
gonna say,
movie.
like, Munch and Denise are the stars of this film.
Munch and Denise, the next film on Stevecast.
But we gotta be clear, it's Munch and Denise, not Munch-ing Denise.
Well, could it be
That's a
Munch
different film.
apostrophe in Denise?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can, Rachel. I will allow it.
Steve James just freed himself, and I am ready for this movie to end, so I say let's watch the final 15.
All right.
and
Put
see
ourselves
if
out of our
Steve
misery.
James redeems
All right.
himself.
Wait. How do we feel it's going to end?
He gives Munch beef jerky. That's how they pay that off, because Munch is a good boy.
Like the final battle, though. Going into the final battle, is it going because Steve James basically said, "Hey, we got to go mano a mano," right? And they're going to tee that up clearly for this. How do we get the full Steve James? Does Rachel get the shirtless Steve James, the karate Steve James, or is this going to be really stupid? Couple slaps and then someone gets shot.
That one.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that
I
one.
don't think. I don't think this is going to be of the quality of the canon action scenes that we've seen. There's been a lot more blood in this than I was expecting. There was a headshot in Denise's.
Squibs are back. Squibs
Yeah.
are back.
They did blow up a car. That's something.
They just blew up a car. We are strong.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play! Wow.
Oof,
That was a terrible ending.
there were no redeeming qualities whatsoever in this film.
I like Denise. Denise
Also
was
Munch. Also Munch.
Okay, fine. There's
Munch and
a
Denise.
dog and Denise is fine, but I feel like we would be much less on Team Denise if Steve James had done something in this movie.
I mean, I think we would have had multiple T. I actually kind of like Denise, and I hope she dumped his ass, which was a sentence I did not expect to say
Yeah,
at the
I-
beginning of this movie. Like, Denise could do better than Steve James.
Wow.
I know. Listen. No one is more shocked by this than I am.
No, I think the actress who played Denise actually did really well. Like, I believed it when she was pissed off at the very end there. Like, we could have been killed, dude. And he's
Yeah.
doing nothing. He's doing nothing. He's just putting her in peril constantly. That's not something Steve James would ever do to any
Yeah.
lady.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Who is this imposter, and what did he do with Steve James?
I mean, the Steve James that we know from American Ninja 2 and 3, I'm not sure that he would have ever entered into a relationship. Because I distinctly remember a scene in one of them where Steve James is on the island, one of the many islands that show up in the American Ninja films, and he has had some fun with the lady, and she just accepts that she knows that he's never going to call her or write her.
I'd blocked that out, but okay.
In Rachel's eyes, Steve James is a man of commitment.
I mean, that's a catch. I mean, I feel like I could fix him. I could do it.
Okay. Can you fix this movie? Because that's what I'd really like you to do.
There's no fixing this movie.
There's no fixing
this movie is pure nonsense. They escape. Denise does the most relatable thing ever and basically says, "What the fuck? Everything bad happening is your fault. Probably going to end the relationship," and hopefully she does, because no sane person would continue to date Steve James after this.
Well, remember early on in the film when she was pissed off at him when we were first introduced to it, and he just like, "Oh, come on, baby, it'll be fine," and then they fuck. So, do we actually think that they're going to break up? In Steve James's world, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know. I think there is a sliding scale between not having an apartment and attempted rape. I feel like maybe she'll draw a line. I have faith in Denise.
So.
Yeah, I
so.
hope that this marks the end of the relationship of these two people. Anyways, they make it out.
It's a weird place to be at the end of this movie.
It
really
is.
Like, we are actively rooting against Steve James's personal relationships.
Yeah.
Aside from Munch, we are pro Munch.
Yeah. Like Steve James, the more I watch this movie, the more I just like Munch.
Anyways, the hero escapes. Hero ? Escapes. Meanwhile, Colonel Walsh goes and kills the remaining Italian mob family. And then Steve James just showed. This is the second time that Steve James has just stood there watching like two rival gangs kill each other. Because remember at the beginning of the cemetery scene, he got there in plenty of time to like make his presence known, but he just stands back and watches the Diablos kill the Romanos or whatever.
It's hard to feel like he's a hero when he's just, because on one hand they try to make him out like, oh, he's this sort of ex-cop, he was wrongly framed, but he was a great cop. But then on the other hand, he's just letting these people murder each other and then just sort of stepping in and
to be
saying
fair,
words.
They're all bad guys, so it's bad guys killing bad guys, so maybe he just doesn't care, but he presents himself like he has this code of honor.
Street disappointment, I just saw that. Touche, kudos, tipping the cap, yes. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I have no idea what's going on. That's fine.
The name of the episode.
Hey! Very, very good job. Kudos, Rachel.
Thank you.
Now the men are talking, so we're gonna need silence.
See, I was trying to back away from that bit. I was trying to back away from that bit, Rachel, and Steve brought it back around.
You were not backing away from anything. You were all in on man talk.
Not this segment.
Lies
Whatever.
and slander. God. Whatever. Steve James shows up after everybody's been murdered. Colonel Walsh sends his team to fight Steve James around the building. They clearly don't succeed. Then Colonel Walsh says, "Hey, Steve James, I'm going back to my secret hideout."
Like, why don't they just end this now? Why do we have to have a whole segment where they go to a secret lair?
Yeah, then they drive back to another location where they're going to fight, and they fight. And their fight mostly consists of rolling around on the ground while Colonel Walsh laughs loudly and obnoxiously talking about Napoleon and Benedict Arnold and his favorite wars. I mean, they did a good job portraying him as fucking crazy in this movie.
I disagree with
Steve
that.
James did take off his trench coat, so a little bonus for Rachel.
You got some guns.
Yeah, I got excited. I was like, it's happening, and then it didn't happen.
But then Steve James, in the middle of the fight, which is also just rolling around, he just runs away. He just runs and hides, and then Colonel Walsh gets a gun and chases him around the place. And then Colonel Walsh fell through a trap door that Steve James apparently had time to build and booby trap with explosives, and you never see him again. He just falls through a hole in the ground, and he apparently is dead. Then Steve James catches John Leguizamo, throws him in the back of his van, and fuck everything about this. Everything I thought I knew was a lie.
Yeah, I feel like we don't come to Steve James for gritty realism.
I mean, I come to Steve James.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, but we don't go to a Steve James flick for gritty realism. Like, we want the ridiculous action hero, like, cliches. Like, we want him to play the hits. You know, like, we wanted Freebird of Steve James, but instead we got, like, the B-sides, and it was a bummer.
I wonder how much, and as we continue our Steve James journey, I wonder how much of our, like the magnetism of Steve James is when he's paired against milquetoast generic white guy. Like, it's like, it's clearly he is so far superior to the Dudikoffs of the world that it's great. But when you have him just as the lead, especially like he doesn't really do like ninja stuff here. I guess at the very end, the final fight with Wash is kind of like a little bit of a ninja fight, maybe some karate. But this is just him shooting guns and stuff, and that's just not interesting.
Does he need someone to like play off of?
Maybe.
I don't know. By the way, I like to think that friend of the show, Michael Dudikoff, I like to think that no one like talks to him most of the time, and then every 3 months he gets this random Twitter notification from us, and he's like, "Oh, human interaction."
That might be the meanest thing you've ever said about
That
him.
is not the meanest thing I've ever said about him.
Jeez. One day he's gonna show up at your front door, Steve.
Yeah, someone's gonna come and just like kick down your door. You'd be like, "Say it to my face."
Ninja
I mean,
kick
I would
right to
probably
Steve's face.
deserve it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
true.
I would just ask him questions about Steve James then. And then I'd be like, Street Hunter, am I right? And he'd be like, yeah, but I was in American Ninja 4.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much. I think the biggest indictment on this one was nothing to say about it.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, did they pay off anything with the drug angle? We were talking about like, well,
No.
there's
No.
nothing there. Didn't
No
pay
beef
off.
jerky?
No beef jerky. Didn't pay that off. Didn't even like have a conclusion to what the relationship between Denise and him was going to be. It's like this film set stuff up and then never addressed it again.
They're leaving it open for that inevitable sequel.
Yes. But we never saw the police. Like, they set the police captain up, like, as the counterpoint to every police captain from every action movie in the 80s and 90s who always hated the heroes. They set him up as this big supporter of Steve James, and he doesn't show up again.
Wellman doesn't show up
The red
again.
herring doesn't show up again. It's like the last 30 minutes of this movie, they forgot the minuscule amount of plot threads that they had set up previously, and it's just like, oh, here's a fight scene which is really just shooting a bunch of people and then having a 2-minute roll around with like 70s Captain America.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even.
Yeah.
Rachel, do you
It
think you would have
hurt.
enjoyed this more if you would have drank during it?
Yes. Yes.
Do we need to redo this where everyone is drunk?
No.
I do think but I do think we need to like hedge our bets so that when we do return to the Steve James well, it's a drunk cast. I'm just saying it now. I'm putting it out there now. So whatever our next drunk cast is, Let's do this. Let's do
What
this.
is the schedule coming up, Steve? Do you have the schedule?
Let me see. Assuming that all of these get posted in order, talk amongst yourselves about things more interesting than this movie, and I will find.
I already got it. So we have Street Hunter. We have Evils of the Night. That's an 80s horror film. Martial Law 2 with Cynthia Rothrock. We got Don't Fuck in the Woods. The First American Ninja.
Yeah.
Cobra with Sylvester Stallone, and then
Never
American
seen
Ninja
it.
5.
All right. Is Steve James back for American Ninja 5?
No, he was dead.
No. Oh.
God damn it, Steve.
But he is there for American Ninja 1, and we are watching that one. So
Okay, that's I need that reminder. I need to go back. I need to see him in a vest. Yeah.
This is also the meanest I've been to Steve James.
I mean, I think we're all a little shook. You know what I mean? Like we're all a little.
we
shook.
hate each other. So I mean, this movie made us hate each other. I feel.
And this movie?
Yeah. Yeah. I liked you until this movie. Rachel.
Stop it! You love me.
Spoiler.
Stop it! You can't get enough.
I just
of this.
use you for your Andor commentary. That's all I need from you, Rachel.
Maybe I don't want Steve to start watching because then I really will get kicked to the curb.
Rachel, a couple weeks ago,
Yes.
Matt and Ronan and I recorded some stuff talking about fandoms and Star Wars and whatnot. And Matt conveniently lost the recording, but I'm going to tell him the same thing. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told him. If Andor ends up sucking, you will never hear the end of it.
Steve,
I
I
want
thought
you
of
to be
something.
aware
Though.
of that.
Steve, I thought of something though, and I told this to Rachel when we were talking about Andor. It won't end up sucking because I've already seen the finale. It's called Rogue One, and it was great.
Yeah, it was great.
It can't
Whoops.
suck.
No, that doesn't count.
It does because
Check.
they said this leads directly
Check.
into Rogue One.
Mate.
The whole
Does
series
not
leads
count.
directly into
No.
Rogue
It
One.
Absolutely not. No.
It absolutely does count. It's the prequel.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I'm sorry.
Doesn't work. No.
Checkmate.
Sorry about it.
Fail.
Sorry about it. Okay,
Fail.
let's take a vote. This is America, democracy.
I'm with you, Rachel.
You might
Second.
want to rethink that.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you win some, you lose some.
We
Sometimes
all lost a little bit today.
we lost
Yeah.
a little bit today, but we will be back. There's more great Steve James on the horizon.
Yes.
Yes. Hopefully Martial Law 2, we get some better Cynthia.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Who picked the martial law to? That feels like Steve to me. I
had nothing to do with that.
No, we picked Martial Law 2 because, for example, Martial Law 2, American Ninja 5, we threw those on there because those are the Stevecast that get the thousands of views. So we were like, okay, we're gonna test this, right?
So we're punishing ourselves to appease the algorithm.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we appease the algorithm by throwing these up there, and if we don't, then we just ruin hours and hours and hours of our lives.
I'm looking at a picture of Martial Law 2 Undercover, and Cynthia Rothrock is giving me Major Dom vibes. I'm back in. Yep, I'm in.
Good.
I'm in.
Good. And we got a movie called
Top Me Daddy. Yep.
We got a movie called Don't Fuck in the Woods coming up on the schedule.
Ugh.
That's got to be
Don't-
good, right?
Isn't there a movie coming up where you or Josh know someone that made the movie?
Josh has talked to somebody who has made this movie. Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Okay, but we're not friends with them, so we can talk shit on it.
I'm not friends with them. I don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, it's fair
Yep.
fucking game.
You guys never talk shit about your friends, so it should be fine.
Never.
Yeah.
Yep. Not once.
So with that, everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of the Stevecast. The end.
We're never posting this.
Oh, we're posting this.
We're not posting any of
Oh,
this.
it's going up.
No.